Welcome back to the Business Ignite podcast, where we light the fire for business growth and marketing success. Your hosts, Ethan Walker and Samantha Reed, bring you the latest trends, expert insights, and actionable strategies to fuel your business journey. Let's ignite your potential.
All right, so have you ever, been on your phone scrolling through a website and you come across a logo and it's so small, so pixelated, it's almost like, what is that even? I can't even tell what that is. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like we're living in 2024. Shouldn't logos look amazing on every single screen size by now?
Yeah, for sure.
That's what we're diving into today with this article, Improving the Responsiveness of Your Logo from 95 Visual.
Great article.
So good. And it really got me thinking about this whole idea of responsive logo design, right? Making sure your brand's visual identity, that face it puts forward, looks just as good on a giant billboard as it does on a tiny little smartwatch.
Absolutely. And I think it's easy to overlook.
Yeah, totally.
But it makes such a difference.
It really does because, think about it. It's not just about aesthetics.
No.
It's about instant recognition.
Yes.
It's about making sure your brand is memorable no matter where someone sees it, which these days is probably on their phone. Let's be real.
Yeah, more often than not, you've got a tiny little window to make an impact.
Exactly. So how do you make sure your logo is working for you in that tiny little window?
Well, it all starts with understanding the power of visual memory.
Okay, tell me more.
It's incredibly powerful. When you have a strong, clear logo and it's consistent across every device, it builds this mental shortcut in your audience's mind.
Interesting.
They see it, they recognize it, boom, that connection is made. Whether they're on your website, seeing an ad, whatever, that familiarity, that consistency builds trust.
It's the more easily your brain can latch onto something visually, the more you inherently trust it, even if you haven't consciously thought about it.
Exactly. It's subtle, but it's there.
So then what are some mistakes that people make, even with the best of intentions, that can actually kind of mess with that visual memory?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think one of the biggest ones is assuming that consistency means using the exact same logo everywhere.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because in reality, a logo that might look amazing on your desktop website with all its detail and complexity could become a blurry, unrecognizable mess when it's shrunk down for a phone screen. And that inconsistency, that actually works against brand recognition.
So it's you need something that can adapt.
Exactly.
Oh, like a chameleon.
Yes.
Okay, this might sound weird, but
no, I love it.
They change their appearance to match their environment.
Right. It's a perfect analogy.
So is that kind of what we're talking about here with responsive logo design?
Exactly. Think of it like having different outfits for different occasions. You wouldn't wear a tuxedo to the beach.
Right.
So with responsive design, you're essentially creating different versions of your logo, each one optimized for a specific screen size. So you're still maintaining the essence of your logo, that core identity, but you're making sure it's readable and clear no matter how or where someone's seeing it.
Okay, so it's not about designing a completely different logo for every single screen size out there.
No, not at all.
It's more about adapting what you already have.
Exactly.
To make sure it looks its best everywhere.
Think of it this way. On a desktop, you might have this really detailed logo, maybe with some intricate elements, fine lines, all that good stuff. But you shrink that down for a phone screen, and suddenly all those beautiful details become this jumbled mess.
Oh, yeah.
So a responsive approach might simplify that logo, maybe remove some elements, adjust the layout a bit for smaller screens, while still making sure those essential recognizable features are front and center.
Okay, this is making me rethink my own website. So let's talk real-world implications here, right? What are the risks of sticking with a non-responsive logo in this day and age?
Well, put yourself in the customer's shoes for a second.
Okay.
You're on your phone, try to find some information about a company. You click on their website, and the logo is so small, so pixelated, you can barely even tell what it's supposed to be. Are you going to stick around?
Probably not.
Probably not. You're going to hit that back button and find a competitor with a website that actually looks like it was made in this century, right?
For sure. It's those first impressions, even online, they matter.
They really do. In a mobile-first world, a non-responsive logo can make your brand seem stuck in the past.
It's true.
And the article actually mentioned a recent study that found that almost 75% of consumers are less likely to engage with a brand if their website isn't mobile-friendly.
Wow, 75%.
75%. And the logo is often that first thing they see.
That's huge.
So it's really the first impression, good or bad.
Okay, so we've established that this is crucial in today's world, but how do we actually go about making our logos more responsive?
Well, the article has some really great tips. A good starting point is think simple.
Think simple. Okay, tell me more.
So the idea here is that when it comes to smaller screens, less is often more. They actually use the Mustang logo as an example.
Oh, okay, I can see where this is going.
Right. So you can't necessarily fit all those details, maybe like the metallic sheen on the horse. You're not going to see that on a smaller version.
Right.
But that iconic horse outline,
Yeah.
instantly recognizable, even at a fraction of the size.
It's so true.
So it's not about stripping away detail for the sake of it. It's about distilling your brand down to its most essential, recognizable form.
Okay, so then how do I know if my logo is, like, essential enough?
That's a great question. I think a good thing to ask yourself is, are there elements in your logo that could be simplified or even omitted entirely for smaller screens without losing that core identity?
That's a really good question. I'm already, like, picturing my logo and trying to imagine, like, what could I get rid of? What's essential?
Yeah, it's a fun exercise.
It is.
It makes you think about your brand in a different way.
Totally. And speaking of thinking differently, the article also mentions this idea of, like, considering stacking.
Yes.
And that's where I'm like, okay, now I really need a design degree because stacking sounds kind of technical.
It can be,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be as complicated as it sounds.
Okay, good.
So imagine this.
Mhm.
Your logo has a tagline underneath it, right?
Okay.
On a large screen, it looks great, nice and balanced.
Right.
But then you shrink it down,
Uh-huh.
and suddenly those words are like bumping into each other, impossible to read.
Totally. It's like trying to read the fine print on, like, a medicine bottle.
Exactly. Stacking is all about solving that problem.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of having everything in that horizontal layout, you arrange the text vertically. So one word or maybe one line on top of the other.
Okay.
And that way, it maximizes readability even on those tiny, tiny screens.
Oh, that's so smart. So it's like, oh my gosh, what's the game? Tetris.
Yes.
It's like Tetris, but with words. You've got to find that arrangement that just fits perfectly in the space you have.
You got it. And, just like in Tetris, some shapes just fit together better than others. And that's where font choice comes in.
Okay, interesting.
Because some fonts with their distinct shapes and their spacing, they just lend themselves better to stacking than others.
That makes a lot of sense. So what should I be on the lookout for? Like, what kind of fonts stack well?
Well, a good rule of thumb is that sans serif fonts, those are the ones without the little decorative strokes on the ends of the letters, tend to stack a lot more cleanly
Okay.
than serif fonts, yeah. Think about a font like Arial or Helvetica.
Got it.
Very clean lines, and they just translate beautifully to smaller sizes.
Okay, sans serif. Got it. Okay, so we've got simplifying, we've got stacking. What other, tricks do responsive logo designers use?
Well, the article really stressed this idea of making every element count.
Okay.
And that means that each part of your logo, from the symbol to the tagline to even the font itself, all of it should work independently to communicate your brand.
Ooh, I like that. So it's not just about the logo as a whole. It's like, is each piece strong enough to, carry its own weight?
Absolutely. It's like a band, right?
Yes.
Every member has to be able to hold their own in a solo. But together, they create something even greater.
Okay, love it.
And that's what you want with your logo.
So give me an example of this in action.
Think about Nike, right?
Okay, yeah.
You got the swoosh, you got the tagline, just do it, you've got the name itself.
Yeah.
Each one of those elements, even on its own, just screams Nike.
It's so true.
That's the kind of versatility and instant recognition you want to be aiming for.
Okay, so, if I were to just, take my logo and start covering up parts of it,
Yeah,
would people still know what it was?
exactly. That's a great test.
Oh, okay.
Imagine your tagline, right? But it's just on a social media icon.
Mm-hmm.
Would people know what your brand represents just from those few words?
That's a good point.
Or your symbol, but it's isolated on a mobile app button. Is it distinctive enough? Those are the kinds of questions to be asking.
This is making me realize that it's about so much more than just like shrinking things down. It's
Right.
like there are actual strategic design choices involved here.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really is. It's like those little details, they really make a difference.
They really do, yeah.
Yeah.
And it all adds up to this idea that a responsive logo, it's not just some design trend.
Yeah.
It's like this essential investment in the future of your brand.
Totally. So, okay, let's say our listener is like driving home from work. They're listening to this deep dive. We've thrown a lot of information at them.
Yeah.
Shrinking screens, stacking fonts.
A lot.
If they only take away one thing about responsive logo design, what should it be?
Oh, that's a tough one.
I know.
I would say it's this. In a world where, let's be honest, everyone's on their phones, a responsive logo is no longer a nice-to-have.
Yeah.
It is a must-have.
Yeah.
It's about future-proofing your brand, making sure your logo is doing the work, no matter where it shows up.
It's about meeting your audience where they are.
Exactly.
Whether they're, scrolling through social media on their phone, or maybe they drive past a billboard and it's the first time they've ever seen your logo.
And you never know, that little tiny logo on their phone screen,
Right.
that could be their first impression of your brand ever.
Oh, that's a good point. You've only got that split second, capture their attention,
That's exactly.
make them want to know more.
And a responsive logo helps ensure that first impression is a good one, no matter how big or small.
I love that. All right, so to wrap this whole thing up, responsive logo design.
Yeah.
It's not just about aesthetics. It's about clarity. It's about consistency.
Absolutely.
And ultimately, it's about making sure that in a world that's just saturated with information,
Yes.
your brand is unforgettable.
Well said.
All right, folks, there you have it, a deep dive into the world of responsive logo design. Go forth and conquer those pixels.
Till next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Business Ignite podcast, where we fuel your business growth and marketing success. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to rate and review us. It does help others find the show. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Business Ignite Podcast and share this episode with a friend. Keep the fire burning, and remember, your success is just one strategy away. Until next time, stay ignited.